Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where we did see the market kick things up a notch here today, but we've got a lot of earnings in focus this week, Ed, not to mention the Fed.
Yeah, a few things going on this week, that's for sure. Strong day today. I want to take a look at three stocks that'll be influenced by earnings this week: Nvidia, Arista Networks, and Etsy.
Okay, we'll get to those stocks, but first, let's analyze those major indexes. The Nasdaq today up 1.7%. We had the S&P 500 up 1.5%. The Dow up 1.1%, and leading the day was small caps with the Russell 2000 up 2.1%. So Ed, we have the Nasdaq here back above the 200-day line, so that's good to see. We could take a look at the S&P 500 as well, holding in this recent trading range, which, hey, I mean, even if we go sideways from here, that actually wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, because we'd see some more handles form on stocks, and so that would be positive. But it was nice to see some bounce back. I mean, it would have been okay if we'd fallen again today because, we're heading into all this big news and we've run up a lot. But yeah, NASDAQ and S&P, they're sort of coming up. They're right around the NASDAQ back above the 200-day line, the NASDAQ and S&P right around their December highs. I think the Russell is really impressive because that one moved up, and sort of, I don't know, like decisively, but it clearly got above its late 2022 highs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a positive. Seeing, again, this shows you the broad breadth, red-based nature of this rally. Seeing all the major indexes sort of getting up there. If we can get to the end of this week with these major indexes clearing those levels, I think it'd be really positive. But we actually have a lot of things going on from here until then.
We sure do. Let's take a look at some sector ETFs while we're at it. So here's XME, the metals and mining ETF, up 1.2% today. So a good day for metal and mining stocks. Also IGV, the tech software ETF, also with a nice gain here, up 1.3%. And SMH, chip stocks, more earnings this week from chip names. So SMH up 1.5%. So Ed, your thoughts on the action that we're seeing on a sector level?
Yeah, we're seeing a whole bunch of things, and there's a whole lot of other sectors that are doing well too, like housing and retail. I mean, there's just a lot of different actions. Energy is still looking pretty good in many ways. So it's this is very positive, and so I think that investors should be taking advantage of these opportunities. The next couple of days could be tricky because we could have a lot of swings with the Fed, with the economy and earnings. So definitely keep that in mind. But this is shaping up to be a much different market than 2022, at least so far. This was a very nice January after a pretty cold 2022.
Mm-hmm. And now let's take a look at Nvidia. So speaking of chip stocks, we have earnings from AMD out tonight. So maybe we can flip on over to that to look at the early reaction. But AMD has been on a hot streak, Ed, so far in 2023, and some volume coming behind this move to the upside.
Yeah, it's nice action here. It's actually on a weekly chart. There's actually a cup base that's there with a 188 buy point. So it's still just in range. It actually pulled back this week on Monday's drop. So technically it's in buy range, though. That's a pretty strong run up from the bottom. Let's be clear. And there's a lot of things going on, including AMD's earnings, which I don't believe are out yet. And then the Fed and all these other things. But yes, very positive to see this chip leader and some of the other ones coming back up. Really positive sign for the rally. And again, Nvidia earnings 3 weeks away, but we'll see how much it moves tomorrow morning on AMD.
Right. Great point there. All right. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's also take a look at ANET. This is in the computer networking group, recently getting back above its 50-day line. Still not out of the woods yet. It's still hovering right around that level, just above 126. A lot of trading action happening, around or below that level over the last couple of months here. So trying to get a little bit of momentum. But what should we be thinking about for ANET and how it could move this week?
Well, I mean, it's around the 50-day line. It's above the midpoint of the base. So in theory, you could have, if it moved above, Friday's highs and sort of that, it would have, you could have an early entry from that. But keep in mind, there's a couple of things that could be influencing it. One is that tonight, Juniper Networks is reporting. And so we'll see how the reaction is to that. I've seen it sort of back and forth so far. And then on Wednesday night, Meta Platforms reports and their spending plans. I mean, Arista may not care about the earnings. They may not care about the guidance, but they'll care about the spending, because the big customer, like a lot of the metaverse things that Facebook is doing, Arista has moved up and down on the swings on Facebook's spending plans in that regard. So a positive report there could send Arista going, but it could also go the other way. So I think that's something tomorrow night to definitely watch out for this one.
Yeah, I mean, this one's on watch. It's been able to deliver some really strong numbers on both the top and bottom lines. Also has pretty good estimates here, Ed. So this is a fundamentally strong stock. It's just from a technical perspective, it hasn't done a whole lot since peaking in December 2021. So, I mean, it's taken a whole year off here, which could actually be a good thing if it can really start gaining momentum. Stocks that we see do have these really long bases. David Ryan, one of our experts on our weekly panel on IBD Live and longtime portfolio manager at O'Neill & Company, has said that these long bases are something that investors should be paying attention to, but relative strength also matters.
It does, and it's sort of, you get sort of back and forth on that, because on the one hand, a lot of tech stocks just collapsed last year. So the fact that it sort of went sideways from the end of 2021 isn't so bad. It bottomed in June, which is something that most tech companies couldn't say. So the relative strength line actually hit a new high in late 2022, but then backed off. This was when Facebook was announcing, we're going to spend a ton. And then they sort of said, well, maybe not. Maybe we won't. And that's one issue, is that, okay, their estimates look pretty solid. The question is was Arista too bullish on that? And will customers say, no, we're not going to spend? And so these next few days and weeks, with Meta and some of its other big customers, if they back off, that could hit Arista. But at the same time, yeah, it could be a positive catalyst for, after a long break.
Yes. And let's also take a look at Etsy. We are getting earnings from Amazon later this week. So Etsy, a group peer here, with pretty clear resistance right around this round number at 140, Ed. So we'll be keeping an eye on a potential move above this level. Nice support recently for Etsy at the 21-day line. So maybe Amazon earnings, or at least the reaction, potentially could be a catalyst for Etsy.
Yeah, and so this one actually works pretty well, because it may not technically have a handle there, but it's sort of close enough, because you're right. There's a lot of stuff there, so it gets over, but it's waiting. It's not. It would be difficult to buy this if it had broken out right now. Like if it did that today, it's like, man, Amazon's coming. But so if it holds here for just a little bit and then can move on that news, I think that would be a real positive. And if Amazon tanks and Etsy falls down, it won't lure people in. I mean, that's would be nice here. So again, I think it's really important, especially in these first few weeks of earnings, to know, what some of the other, not just the earnings for your holdings or your potential buys, but for stocks like this, it's like, well, what's Amazon doing? What's Meta doing? What are these other things doing that might swing the stocks that you are actually paying attention to?
That's such a great point. And it doesn't have to be in the same industry group. It can be thematic, right? Like we saw that with the digital ad spend theme in recent quarters. So take a look beyond just the industry group, but also be thinking about these broader themes as well, because you can see those moving together.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we hope you join us. Investors.com/IBD Live for the details on that. And we could break down all of those earnings movers. Looks like AMD, still not sure if the report is out quite yet. Not seeing a whole lot of movement in the stock after hours, Ed, but I know that's one that we'll be tracking very closely come tomorrow morning. So tune in, IBD Live, 10 minutes before the opening bell. We'll see you there, everyone. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.